Hey everyone, welcome to the channel and another review. I just got back from seeing Cyrano in the theater, so let's talk about it. As usual, let's just start with a brief synopsis. Too self-conscious to woo Roxanne himself, wordsmith Cyrano de Bergerac helps young Christian nab her heart through love letters. So my anticipation coming into this film, I have seen the trailers for it. It's been playing quite a bit recently in front of films in the theater, so I've been very aware of this film. I've been interested in it from the trailers, and I'm a very big fan of Peter Dinklage. So kind of those combined, this was one of my most anticipated movies of the first part of this year. I'd say coming in behind Batman and, but yeah, pretty much coming in behind Batman from now until we'll say May, because once the summer season kicks off, we got a lot of other stuff. But after Batman, I would say next came Cyrano and Death on the Nile. Those are both pretty high up there. So yeah, definitely had very large expectations going into this. Really hoping it'd be a good or possibly great movie. And yeah, with that, let's get into my thoughts now that I've seen the film. So as always, start off with the good, and here I'd say the best thing about this movie, in my opinion, is Peter Dinklage. He's just a phenomenal actor, and I know love to see him in anything that he's in. But I think he, yeah, as always, brought his A game to this role, and yeah, like that alone, I think makes the movie worth seeing. But besides that, there are a lot of other things that I enjoyed about the film. I thought the cinematography was really well done. Just the look of the film was very beautiful, and there were several long take shots, which I really appreciate. If you've seen any of my other reviews, you'll see, especially in action movies. This is not an action movie, but in action movies, I always make a point of commenting on whether or not they had long takes because I really enjoy it when we get that. And what's what's kind of amusing is a week ago Uncharted came out and that didn't really have any long takes that I noticed, but this, which is a drama, has an action long take that is better than any of the action that we saw in Uncharted, in my opinion. So that was really fun to see, and then just the different, there's dance choreography and big scenes that involve that sort of thing that are all filmed very well. So I thought the cinematography was really good, the costume design and the sets were also well done. I think all that contributed to the overall like really nice look to the film. And another thing I liked about the film was I didn't know he was going to be in it, but Ben Mendelsohn I thought did a good job of his character. I mean, he's kind of made out to be the villain. He is the villain, so to speak. And so don't necessarily like the character, but I thought he did a good job and played that character well. And it was just a surprise to see him as another actor that I recognize. And then lastly, the final thing I liked about it was the music. And I didn't really know how much music was going to be in this. I had, the trailers make it seem like there's going to be at least some songs sung by the characters. But there's more than I was expecting, and overall I liked the music. It's the sort of style of musical that I enjoy, as opposed to say something like more traditional Broadway sounding music. But so yeah, that was nice, and this will be a soundtrack I'm looking forward to listening to at this point moving forward. And just another note on the music, I thought another thing I appreciated is how they recorded the music, or at least how it came across. A lot of times in movie musicals, it feels like they're just lip syncing it and then they record it in the studio afterwards. So the sound that you hear of their voice singing doesn't seem to fit the space that you're seeing visually. But in this, with the exception of maybe one song, I thought all of it felt like they were actually singing and, in the space that you were seeing them in, which, yeah, is, I think, a rare thing to see in especially movie musicals. So that I appreciated quite a bit. So that kind of sums up the things that I liked about the film. I have just a couple negatives to go over. In general, and I think this isn't necessarily the fault of the screenwriters, but in general, I didn't really care for any of the main characters. I think they're all deeply flawed characters, but I suppose that's part of the beauty of it in a way. Like, I mean, who wants to watch a movie where the characters don't have flaws? But I think these characters have very, very large flaws, and with the exception, I would say, I think it overrides their, or it very much controls their character, and they end up becoming people that I don't really connect with because of that. So I thought, Roxanne seemed very, very shallow, and that's just who her character is. But given that, I wasn't able to connect with her, and I didn't necessarily care about her character. Same with Christian. I thought that he is a very shallow character. I mean, somebody who is willing to have somebody else speak for them basically, and to try to put on that ruse is, I don't know, it's just not something that I would do. And I mean, kind of on the flip side of that is Cyrano, but it's hard to put my finger on it. Maybe it's just because it's Peter Dinklage, but he is the only character that I actually felt connected to, even though they are all very flawed. Cyrano's just, I mean, he's the flip side of that. I don't know that I would just, use somebody as my face and give them my words. It's a very superficial thing to do. And yeah, the story sets it up, and it, kind of makes sense within the context of the story. But that was one thing I didn't really care for, is just, couldn't really connect to the main characters as a whole. And then the other thing that I have kind of more in the mixed category, I don't know that it's necessarily a negative, but the tone of the movie seems kind of all over the place. Like, it's fairly whimsical, or like slightly absurd, just the context, or just the general story. Like having, somebody write love letters for another person, and then a woman falling in love with the face of that person and the words of another person it's an absurd concept. So you have kind of that absurdity, and that, I would say, takes over the beginning part of the film and definitely the middle part of the film. But then the third act is very serious, and you get a few other very serious scenes. So it kind of bounces between a few different extremes. And yeah, I put it in the mixed category because I'm not really sure how I necessarily feel about that. It just seemed kind of off overall, or at least not as cohesive as a movie for that reason, kind of tonally. So, but that's about it. Nothing too major on the negative front or the mixed category. But yeah, overall, I'd say this movie it's a very good movie in my opinion. I enjoyed it quite a bit. There are just a couple of the things in the mixed category. I'd say mainly that kind of tone difference throughout the movie. That's what barely keeps it out of the great category for me, as far as being a great movie. So I'd say it's very good, and one that I'd recommend to anybody that's looking for a drama. I'd highly recommend it to anyone who's a fan of a musical. It's not every day that we get a new musical in the theater. So yeah, with that does it for my review for Cyrano. If you've been able to see Cyrano, definitely let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Otherwise, if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss my next review. Alright, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.